Well, good Saturday morning, everybody out there in Fedora Nation. Hi, howdy, how you doing? Good to see you. Welcome back to another session of Front Porch Brunch. My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative, known far and wide by many different names. Sometimes I go by the fine fella in the fedora. Sometimes I go by the bow and the chapeau. Sometimes I am referred to as the wise guy in the wide brim, and sometimes I'm even known as the common man with common sense. This is Front Porch Brunch, where we gather together to talk about items in the news, and boy, have we got a lot to talk about this week, as we always do. So, if you haven't done it yet, send out a tweet, send out a Gettr, send out a Gab, send out a Truth Social, send out a Facebook post, tell people to get in here, and let's talk about what is going on in the world. And there is a lot that is going on, as you might expect. Oh my goodness, have we got so much to talk about. We'll let everybody start settling into the room, give everybody a minute or two. Again, my name is Brian Trippett. This is a live stream known as Front Porch Brunch. And if you're wondering what it is dedicated to, it is dedicated to you, the hardworking people of America out there hustling on the fruited plain, as Rush Limbaugh used to call it, trying to make a living, scratching together some dollars to pay that rent, pay that mortgage, feed the kids, feed the wife, feed the husband, feed the whoever, feed the dog, feed the cat, feed everybody basically. And in the process of doing that, you're trying to keep the boss happy, your spouse happy, your significant other happy, the in-laws happy, the outlaws happy. And you don't always have time to catch up on what's going on in the news. And hence, that is where I come in. Your friendly host provides a simple but humble and powerful service in that I allow you the opportunity to catch up on what's going on in the world by simply being on the air with my glorious presence, giving you some conversation about what is happening in the world. So let's see who we've got here this morning. Good morning, Miss Gypsy. Mwah. Love you, darling. Glad to see you here. Oh my goodness, who all is in the house this morning? We got some people over on Rumble. We got some lurkers over there, but that's not unusual. They always lurking. Very rarely are they saying anything, but I still love you, you lovely lurkers. Anyway, it is a good Saturday morning. It has been a busy week for me personally, as it usually is, and all kinds of things coming up. Not just today, but also a little bit more on this weekend, which I'll get to in a few moments. And some things coming up next week, which have been delayed, but they're now ready to happen. So this is going to be very, very fun for me personally. And like I say, we'll get to all those stories shortly. Let me finish doing one thing real fast. And yeah, there we go. Need that one too. Okay, I'll pop those down and then we will get into everything. All right. Like I say, it's good to have you here this Saturday morning. A lot to talk about. And I want to follow up. I want to start our day with some final thoughts on Judge Scott McAfee's ruling in the matter of whether or not both Nathan Wade and District Attorney Fani Willis should be disqualified from the case against former President Trump and the other 18 defendants. So yesterday evening, we did a pretty extensive review of the judge's ruling, and I don't necessarily want to go back over all that, but I want to give you some reactions to it and also give you some updates if you haven't heard about it. So the judge came down with a very interesting 23-page ruling. And the ruling had nothing good really to say about Fani Willis and Nathan Wade, or as we lovingly refer to them, Drama Mama and Loverboy. But the judge did something that I guess in his mind was Solomon-like. I would make an argument he didn't even come close to tapping the wisdom of Solomon in terms of what he ruled. Basically, he said there's no actual act of impropriety here. There's no actual conflict of interest, which I profoundly disagree with that. That's what it goes without saying. And he said there is an appearance of impropriety and we need to do something about this. Or the phrase that he used that I think is the one that this ruling will forever be known for. He said, the situation has an odor of mendacity. Translation, it stinks of lying. Now that part he got right. His solution for it, however, left a lot to be desired. So we're going to start right there. And I want to read you part of the ruling because it sets up what happens next. There has not been a showing that the defendant's due process rights have been violated or the issues involved prejudice the defendants in any way, nor is disqualification of a constitutional officer necessary when a less drastic and sufficiently remedial option is available. The court therefore concludes that the prosecution of this case cannot proceed until the state selects one of two options. The district attorney may choose to step aside along with the whole of her office and refer the prosecution to the prosecuting attorney's counsel for reassignment. Alternatively, Special Assistant District Attorney Wade can withdraw, allowing the district attorney, the defendants, and the public to move forward without his presence or remuneration, distracting from and potentially compromising the merits of this case. Well, I posed the question the other morning that which one, we're going to find out real fast which one is more important to Fani Willis, her ego or Nathan Wade. Well, it didn't take long for that question to get answered. Here is a letter from, let me see if I can enlarge this. It's not going to let me, but I will read this, or at least parts of it. This is from Nathan Wade, submitted late yesterday afternoon, and he says the following. As directed by the order today in the state of Georgia versus Donald John Trump, I hereby offer my resignation, effective immediately, as special prosecutor for the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. Although the court found that, quote, defendants failed to meet the burden of proving that the district attorney acquired an actual conflict of interest, I am offering my resignation in the interest of democracy. Oh, God. In dedication to the American public, whatever, and to move this case forward as quickly as possible. I am proud of the work our team has accomplished in investigating, indicting, and litigating the case, seeking justice for the people of Georgia and the United States, and being part of the effort to ensure that the rule of law and democracy are preserved. Has been an honor of a lifetime. I am sure that the case and the team will be in good hands moving forward, and justice will be served. You, the team on this case, and the entire office have my prayers for your safety and your success in the pursuit of justice. Respectfully, Nathan J. Wade, Esquire. All right. There you go. So now he is voluntarily taking himself off the case in compliance with the judge's order. Now, I want to give some reactions, and I wasn't able to do it yesterday because for some strange reason, my desktop version of Twitter just absolutely decided to act up like a child throwing a tantrum. And I want to give you some reactions, not just from attorneys involved in the case, but also from legal observers who've been watching this whole thing. So we start with the reaction from Donald Trump's attorney, Steve Sado, with regard to Judge McAfee's ruling. And he said the following in a press release. While respecting the court's decision, we believe that the court did not afford appropriate significance to the prosecutorial misconduct of Willis and Wade, including the financial benefits, testifying untruthfully about when their personal relationship began, as well as Willis's extrajudicial MLK church speech, where she played the race card and falsely accused the defendants and the counsel of racism. We will use all legal options available as we continue to fight to end this case, which should never have been brought in the first place. Well, I don't disagree with him on that last part. And that's something that I'm sort of wondering is, can and should the defense counsel for the various plaintiffs and various individuals involved, can they appeal this decision, and should they appeal it? Well, from what I understand, they can appeal it. The question is, should they? And here's why I'm asking that. They've probably got the legal ability to appeal Judge McAfee's decision. However, my worry is this, and again, this is just my worry by way of legal strategy. Okay, you appeal it. Why should a higher court overturn the judge's remedy? Now, what I mean by that is this. They may not agree, the higher court may not agree with Judge McAfee's remedy. Okay? But that said, would they really have an incentive to overturn it? In other words, what burden of proof is going to have to be met in order to get a higher court to overturn the judge's decision and disqualify both Wade and Willis? I don't know. I don't know if a higher court is simply limited to the question of, okay, we'll look at this aspect of the case, we'll look at this aspect of it, we'll look at this aspect of the ruling. I don't know. Are they limited in this matter? Couldn't tell you. Don't know. I mean, the ruling is just, to me, just bad. Because to me, it's a 2-for-1 deal. That is, both of them together are involved in the things that the judge felt it necessary to get one of them removed from the case. Okay? So I don't see how you can go after one and not go after the other, which, by the way, is not just necessarily my thinking on this. It's the opinion of many others. Let me take you to Newsmax, who was interviewing the legendary Alan Dershowitz, Harvard law professor emeritus. And I want you to listen to what he has to say about this. This clip runs for about maybe like a minute or so, but it's worth every inch of it. So, folks, do me a favor. Check out what the Dersh has to say. Now, Dershowitz brings up a very interesting point, and this is one of my frustrations with what Judge McAfee did. There's no sound? Oh my gosh, hang on a minute. Hang on. Let's try that again. Okay, I'm going to play just a snippet of this. Now we have, oh, for the love of God. Ugh. Frustrating. I don't know what happened there. Okay. Please tell me that for the past 15 minutes, I haven't been just rambling on in the dark. Okay, apparently it has been that bad. Oh, good God. Okay. Oh, we did not hear her Dersh. Okay. Tell you what, let me back that up and do that again. Sorry about that, folks. But yeah, a lot of this is definitely worth listening to. So do me a favor. Let's play that. Let's try that. Boys, strike up the band. Let's do it again.
Well, I think the verdict, the result, is utterly dishonest. I respectfully disagree with Judge Napolitano, who I respect enormously. Everybody knows that she profited from it. Everybody knows who watched the thing that she committed perjury, that she conspired to commit perjury with Nathan Wade and with the other witness. Who are you going to believe, this judge or your lying eyes? We all know there was an actual conflict of interest here. He just doesn't have the guts to say it. And I predicted he wouldn't have the guts to say it. He has to live in Fulton County. Now, he may have said some things that are very critical of her, but still, he should have removed her from the case. There is an actual conflict of interest. She made money from this case. If anybody believes that she actually paid back every penny in cash, I got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn.
Okay, I want to stop right there for a second. And thank you guys for letting me know. Okay, that the sound on that wasn't any good. Dershowitz hits on something that bugged me about the judge's ruling. And it goes back to the first part of his ruling on the question of, is there an actual conflict of interest? The judge, without having to go back into the text of his ruling, basically said that there's about $15,000 of trips that Nathan Wade paid for and that Fonnie Willis reimbursed him on, or roughly the equivalent, okay? So let's say $7,500 that Fonnie Willis paid back to Nathan Wade, but she did it in cash. Now, the judge notes that how she kept her records was unusual, if I may use that term generously here, but not beyond the realm of the ordinary. I mean, as I've said on several occasions, being from Appalachia, it's not unusual for people to keep cash in their house, especially in very large amounts and usually for cultural reasons, okay? So I'm not surprised by the fact she kept cash in the house. But the problem in the judge's ruling for me is this: in order for that defense of their actions to be acceptably legitimate, she has to, at a minimum, have some kind of documentation, not necessarily showing where the cash came from, although that's a whole other issue and a can of worms that if it gets opened up, oh, God help her. Okay? But at a minimum, she has to have some kind of documentation showing, when and how she paid Nathan Wade back. Again, I'm not saying she's got to pull out an old school ledger and open it up and say, on this date, I paid him this amount of money as it related to this trip that we took, whatever. But give me something. Give me something that proves what you're saying. But the mind-boggling part about this is the judge just glossed right over the fact that, she has no proof to back up anything she's saying. And basically, he's tolerating from her what he and Fonnie Willis, in her role as a prosecutor, would never tolerate from any witness. In other words, you've got to believe me because I'm fill in the blank. You got to believe me because I'm Fonnie Willis, the district attorney for Fulton County. No, I'm sorry. I don't care who you are, and I don't care what job you have. The burden of proof is on you to verify your story. And if you can't, then at a minimum, your story is lacking credibility. You can't prove it. So Dershowitz is absolutely right. I mean, the idea that somehow, Fonnie Willis paid this money back is crazy. So yes, it constitutes conflict of interest. She was monetarily benefiting from the relationship. Nathan Wade was being paid by the district attorney's office. He's gallivanting her around the world, on various trips to various places, and she maybe paid him back, but she can't prove it. Anyway, Dershowitz is not alone in this opinion, by the way. And I want to show you a tweet from Robert Barnes. Let's remember, the only reason any case exists in Georgia is because the corrupted Fulton County Courthouse refused to follow the law in scheduling a hearing on Trump's election contest. So not surprising the court proved once again what a joke Fulton County justice system is. He ain't wrong. He ain't wrong. Now, I also want to play you a reaction from Jonathan Turley. He got off probably one of the best lines of the whole day. And you guys may have heard this, but I want to play it for anybody who hasn't had the chance to hear it yet. Turley was being interviewed by Fox News, as he's a frequent contributor to their programs. And I want you to listen to what he's got to say on this. This is pretty good.
The entire office out of the mix. He'd have to reassign this to another set of prosecutors. That would cause considerable delay. It could also cause the dismissal of the case if those new prosecutors looked at this racketeering theory and said, like many of us, wow, this doesn't really hold together very well. So this avoided the cliff, but it did not avoid the questions that will inevitably come up. It's like, finding two people in a bank vault and taking one off to jail. I mean, the question is, the appearance problem that the judge identified with regard to Wade was directly related to his relationship with Willis. They both testified in the same way. They were the two parts of this relationship, and yet only one of them was disqualified. And so that's going to lead to these questions. I mean, well, why should Willis escape that same penalty? The opinion leaves us feeling like the court went and shot the wounded.
Yeah.
And that is a perfectly valid point. You can't have one and not go after the other. He's absolutely right. I mean, Turley is spot on with this. Play you one last thing, and then we'll move on to some other subjects. And this is not done for the purpose of making fun of him, because I love the guy. I do this because I really think he sums up the frustration of millions of Americans across this country, that when they found out what the judge ruled yesterday, they're like, anyway. Joe Neerman, a.k.a. Good Logic on YouTube, has been following this thing start to finish. As you might expect, he's probably one of the better members of LawTube, along with Nate the Lawyer, Viva Fry, Nick Ricada, etc. A whole host of them. They're all really good. Sub to their channels. These guys are absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to play you Joe's reaction. And good morning, Blue Sky. Glad to have you here. I'm going to play you Joe Neerman's reaction. Like I said, I don't do this out of disrespect, and I'm not making fun of him. But I really do believe his reaction is the frustration that all of us have right now. So do me a favor, take a listen to this.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is going to take some stomaching. This is going to take some stomaching. It's going to take some stomaching. I'm feeling betrayed. I'm feeling like I believed in this, man. I believed in this, man. I said, he seems to be like a man of integrity. I still stand by that. I think he genuinely tries to engage in integrity. But I'm going to need to let out a bit of a scream right now. So you might want to turn this down, because
it's not that loud, folks, I assure you.
Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard to find someone who has a brain and integrity and balls? That's what I just want to know. Why? Why is that so hard? Why? It's like, seems like impossible to find anyone in a position of authority who has a brain, has a heart, has cojones.
Yeah, Joe, I feel you, brother. I feel you. I really do. I get it. The older I get, the more I realize that it's important to remember that there's what should happen and what does happen. And yeah. And I go back to something Dershowitz said a little bit ago. The guy lives in Fulton County. He's got to butter his bread there. Should that have really affected his decision? No, but it probably did. I hate to say it. So, yeah, like I say, I'm not doing it out of disrespect to Joe Neerman. I think Joe's probably one of the better people out there as far as commentators, but he is definitely summing up everybody's frustration in this. And it's not so much I'm frustrated because I didn't get the decision that I wanted. That's not it. It's just, again, quoting Dershowitz, who are you going to believe? This judge or your lying eyes? I mean, it is sad. It's absolutely sad. I agree with that completely. It's kind of obvious what's going on here. And the answers that Nathan Wade and Fonnie Willis are giving make not an ounce of sense. I mean, if it had looked odd, but they could come up with a reasonable explanation that's backed up by supporting documentation, all right. Situation might look a little weird, but okay, you can explain it. It's legal, yada, yada, yada. When they're going on what amounts to basically $15,000 worth of traveling together, he's getting paid by the DA's office, and she cannot prove that she paid him back, and we're all just supposed to believe it because she's Fonnie Willis, that makes not an ounce of sense whatsoever. As I said it the other day, if the situation were reversed and it were Ashley Merchant in the witness chair and Fonnie Willis asking the questions, and Ashley Merchant gave the argument, well, you should believe me because I'm Ashley Merchant, there ain't no way in the world Fonnie Willis would accept that as an answer. She'd pound her into the concrete verbally. Morning, sir. Glad to have you. I haven't really paid that much attention, Robert, but I've got a feeling they're kind of privately going, dodge the bullet. Although, and I wish now I had this one pulled up. Jeffrey Toobin the other day, infamous for his activities on Zoom meetings at CNN, said, yeah, this was not a good day for her at all. Matter of fact, hang on a second. Maybe I can find this real quick because I remember where I saw it. It's not necessarily a clip, but I think I can get to it real quick. Y'all talk amongst yourselves for a second. Do 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 do. Da 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 da. La da 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 da. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, I can do this real fast. Hang on. All right. Headline: CNN Toobin, good day for Trump. Fonnie Willis case is going nowhere. Let me see how long this thing runs. Let me see if I can play this clip. Hang on a second, folks. Might be worth a listen to.
He would not be able to pardon himself from these state charges.
And too far in, and I didn't have time to prep it. But anyway, I'll read this real fast. Former Assistant U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Toobin, I didn't know he was a former U.S. Attorney, said Friday on CNN's Anderson Cooper 360 that today was a good day for President Trump because Judge Scott McAfee rebuked Fulton County DA Fonnie Willis. Cooper, Jeff, the judge's opinion was a scathing rebuke of Willis and her judgment. He wrote that the reasonable questions remain about whether Willis and Wade testified untruthfully about the timing of the relationship, Toobin, Today was a very good day for Donald Trump. This case is going nowhere. Even if, in the extreme unlikely event that this somehow staggers to trial in August or the fall, think about this. There's another racketeering case in Georgia where jury selection, not the trial jury, its selection has taken a year. This case is never going to come to trial before the election. This case is never going to trial before the election. It's an embarrassment. All of this, Fani Willis has hung on, but this case is going nowhere very quickly. Former DeKalb County, Georgia District Attorney Gwen Key said, I disagree with Mr. Toobin. I do think this case there is enough evidence to go forward. I think that particularly the timing in this case. And that was the end of it. So yeah, I don't have a lot of reaction from the mainstream media, but they're not exactly jumping for joy over this. Not exactly jumping all over. Yeah, yeah. And frankly, there was one attorney for the defendants, and I'm forgetting his name right now, but I know who it is if I saw his face, who said, Fani Willis has made, Georgia the laughing stock of the legal world. And I can't disagree with that. And if judges in Georgia want to put a stop to this, then you make an example of her. But I don't think they're going to touch her, number one, because she's a woman, number two, because she's black. I mean, let's just be perfectly honest about it. They're not going to touch her for those two reasons. Lest they be accused of being sexist or being racist, even though Fani Willis's actions in this matter are enough that, as far as I'm concerned, she ought to be disbarred, among other things. So there you go. All right, well, it's top of the hour. It's 11 a.m. on a Saturday morning. My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. This is Front Porch Brunch, where we get together once a week and talk about things going on in the news. And I'm going to do before we get to our next story, I'm going to do a couple of quick commercials. And I found out about something, and I'm going to live stream this tomorrow morning. Howard Kurtz, who is a frequent commenter on all things media, is doing an interview with President Trump. The interview will start at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. I'm going to live stream cover it. I haven't talked to Ruben yet to see if he'd be interested in participating. But, if nothing else, I'll cover it by myself. But if you guys are interested, it'll be 11 a.m. tomorrow. I'll probably start my live stream probably about 15 till 11. And, Brent, if you're here and you want in on it, that's fine too. I mean, glad to have you. But yeah, we'll be doing that tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. The interview's 11 a.m. The live stream will start probably about 10:45. And by way of other commercial announcements, and this one I'm very happy to see happen because I was really looking forward to this, and I know you guys were too. We have rescheduled the interview with comedian Chrissy Mayer. She will be here this coming Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. So mark that on your calendars. This Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. Now, one last commercial. This one's long term. I have managed to secure the day off on Thursday, April 25th, which also happens to be the day that the Supreme Court will hear oral arguments in the matter of the United States versus Trump. This is the presidential immunity question case. I'll be doing a live stream on that one. And I'll be joined by attorney Daniel Street from Louisiana. He's managed to work his schedules. He can sit in for this one. And I'll be reaching out to various people to see if they want to join us as we listen in on the arguments. So mark that one on your calendars. Thursday, April 25th. That's coming up too. So a lot of stuff happening on the front porch. So stick around, kids. You never know what's going to happen. All right. Let us get to our next story. And before we do, one last housekeeping item. If you haven't done it yet, send out a tweet, send out a Gettr, send out a Gab, send out a Truth Social. Tell your friends, come on in. Let's talk about what's going on in the world. And, hit the like button, share it around. And, as always, if you've got some coin in your pocket and you have no particular use for it, well, there's an electronic cup here called Super Chats and Rumble Rants. But again, please do not do anything irresponsible. Take care of yourself and your families first. But like I say, If that coin's just burning a hole in your pocket, well, I'm not going to object. Anyway, did you guys hear about Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's speech late last week? Oh my God. This thing has got so many angles to it, and I have not had a chance to really talk about this until now, and I want to get into it. Now, some things about Senator Schumer, who we here on the electronic front porch affectionately refer to as Chucky Baby. Chucky Baby is a senator from New York State. Chucky Baby lives in New York City. Chucky Baby is Jewish. But the speech he gave the other day has absolutely set off reactions, not just here in the U.S., but all over the world. Now, for those of you who have not heard about this yet, this is from the Associated Press. Top Democrat Schumer calls for new elections in Israel, says Netanyahu is an obstacle to peace. So, here we go. Get ready. Story written by Mary Claire Jelinek and Ellen Nickmeyer. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer on Thursday called on Israel to hold new elections, saying he believes Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has, quote, lost his way and is an obstacle to peace in the region amid a growing humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Schumer, the first Jewish majority leader in the Senate and the highest-ranking Jewish official in the United States, strongly criticized Netanyahu in a 40-minute speech Thursday morning on the Senate floor. Schumer said the prime minister has put himself in a coalition of far-right extremists and, quote, as a result, he has been too willing to tolerate the civilian toll in Gaza, which is pushing support for Israel worldwide to historic lows. Quote, Israel cannot survive if it becomes a pariah, Schumer said. The high-level warning comes as an increasing number of Democrats have pushed back against Israel and as President Joe Biden has stepped up public pressure on Netanyahu's government, arguing that he needs to pay more attention to the civilian death toll in Gaza amid the Israeli bombardment. The U.S. this month began airdrops of badly needed humanitarian aid and announced it will establish a temporary pier to get more assistance into Gaza via the sea. Schumer has so far positioned himself as a strong ally of the Israeli government, visiting the country just days after the brutal October 7th attack by Hamas and giving a lengthy speech on the Senate floor in December decrying brazen and widespread anti-Semitism, the likes of which we haven't seen in generations in this country, if ever. But he said on the Senate floor Thursday that the Israeli people are being stifled right now by a governing vision that is stuck in the past. Schumer says Netanyahu, who has long opposed Palestinian statehood, is one of several obstacles in the way of the two-state solution pushed by the United States. Netanyahu, quote, has lost his way by allowing his political survival to take precedence over the best interests of Israel, Schumer said. The majority leader is also blaming right-wing Israelis, Hamas, and Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. Until they are all removed from the equation, Schumer said, there will never be peace in Israel and Gaza and the West Bank. The United States cannot dictate the outcome of an election in Israel, Schumer said, but a new election is the only way to allow for a healthy and open decision-making process about the future of Israel at a time when so many Israelis have lost confidence in the vision and direction of their government. At the White House, National Security spokesman John Kirby declined to weigh in on Schumer's remarks, saying the White House is most focused on getting a temporary ceasefire in place. Quote, we know leader Schumer feels strongly about this and will certainly let him speak to it and to his comments. We're going to stay focused on making sure that Israel has what it needs to defend itself while doing everything that they can to avoid civilian casualties. Israel Ambassador Michael Herzog called the speech counterproductive to our common goals. Israel is a sovereign democracy, Herzog posted on Twitter, formerly also known as X. It is unhelpful, and all the more so as Israel is at war against the genocidal terror organization Hamas, to comment on the domestic political scene of a Democratic ally. All right, let's get into this. Sorry, I read something real fast in chat and I got distracted. So, Chucky Baby is calling for Israel to have new elections in the hopes that he can get rid of Benjamin Netanyahu. All right, let's deal with this. I don't ever want to hear Schumer, Biden, any Democrat official from the State Department, John Kirby, Jake Sullivan, ever talk to anybody again about election interference. Because I'm sorry, what they did right there is blatant election interference. They want to disrupt a sovereign government to create an outcome that is, in their minds, better for the United States. But then again, I'm not necessarily surprised by this. The U.S. government, in one form or another, has been doing this sort of thing for years. Oh, you conspiracy theorist. What about Ukraine in 2014? I mean, how many different examples around the world do you have to give where the U.S. has deliberately interfered in the election of another nation to get the results that it wanted or the leadership in place that it feels it needs to have? I mean, I mean, I'll give you a real good example from the not too distant past. Back in the 1990s, John Major was the Prime Minister of Great Britain. Well, for one reason or another, Bill Clinton didn't feel like he could work with him. So what did he do? He sent James Carville and Paul Begala over to Great Britain to help get elections going. And sure enough, along comes Tony Blair and his party. They take over control of the House of Commons and therefore take control of the government. And then we get Tony Blair for the next 10 to 15 years. However, the reason that I'm not ever wanting to hear any Democrats ever lecture anybody again about, not about interfering in elections and the sovereign governments of other nations, if they had not been bitching, pissing, and moaning about Russian interference in our elections here, all right, their hands might be clean enough to talk about this. You're now doing the very thing that you accuse Russia of, or China, or any other nation that you say is meddling in U.S. elections. Don't ever talk to me about this again. Shut up. Shut your pie hole. Oh, really? I didn't think the turtle had enough energy left to get mad about anything. But I will say this, Blue Sky, you do bring up a good point. You do bring up a good point. We'll get to that in a second. But okay, hang on a minute. Something has just been sent to me, and I gotta check this out because this is a late breaking. Let me see if I can find this here. Uh-oh. Is this what I think it is? Okay, hang on, folks. Okay, remember how we were just talking about Fonnie Willis and Nathan Wade? Well, Gypsy just sent me an update. And apparently there's been a grievance filed with the Georgia bar over Fonnie. Now, this is a tweet from Phil Holloway, who's an attorney in Atlanta. He's been following this whole case as well. We'll get back to the Schumer thing in a minute. But apparently there is a grievance filed against Fonnie Willis with the Georgia bar. Now, where this is going to go, don't know yet. But I'd love to get my hands on a copy of it just to see. Let's see. Georgia bar rules sections potentially violated. Fees, candor toward tribunal, fairness to opposing counsel, and impartiality and decorum, special responsibility as prosecutor, truthfulness in statements, misconduct, lawyer as a public official, conduct constituting threat of harm to clients or public, emergent. Ooh. baby. Oh, I'd love to get my hands on a copy of this. But yeah, thank you, Gypsy. Yeah, absolutely. This, yeah. Okay. Remember how I said Fannie had all kinds of problems, not necessarily related to Judge McAfee's ruling? It could very well be that stuff is starting to roll downhill. Just saying. But thank you for that, Gypsy. I genuinely appreciate it. All right, let's get back to old Schumer. Now, that speech that he gave on the Senate floor is bad for any number of different reasons, okay? A, you're doing it at a time when your ally in the Middle East is in the middle of a war, okay? And B, there's an even more basic question here that in my mind, no one's really talking about, okay? And it's this. What gives the United States the right to tell the Israeli people who they ought to have as their leadership or not? Now, don't get me wrong. Hang on. Let me explain what I'm getting at here. Let me give that some context. As a sovereign nation, do we have hopes that there are certain individuals elected as leaders of foreign countries because we feel we can better work with them? Okay, sure. I don't dispute that in the slightest. That's fine. I get that. And, are we, if our advice is asked for, should we give it? Of course. You do that with any friend. Okay. That said, however, to just get up on the Senate floor and say, well, I think you need new elections in Israel because he's out of step and he's this and no. You don't do that. No, that is completely out of bounds. Completely. Okay. But not surprisingly, our president had a reaction to Senator Schumer's speech. And I take you now to the pages of Breitbart.com. Biden calls Schumer after Senator backs Schumer after Senator calls for new elections in Israel. Article written by, this is from the Associated Press. Joe Biden is expressing support for Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer after the senator called for new elections in Israel. President Joe Biden expressed support Friday for Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer after the senator called for new elections in Israel, the latest sign that the U.S. relationship with its closest Middle East ally is careening toward fracture over the war in Gaza. Schumer, a Jewish Democrat from New York, sent tremors through both countries this week when he said Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has lost his way and warned that Israel cannot survive if it becomes a pariah as Palestinian casualties continue to grow. Quote, he made a good speech, Biden said in the Oval Office during a meeting with Ireland's Prime Minister. I think he expressed serious concerns shared not only by him, but by many other Americans. Well, it is no secret. It is no secret at all that Joe Biden doesn't like Benjamin Netanyahu. And many people have speculated, and I don't necessarily disagree with the speculation because I think there's something to it. I just wonder how much coordination there was between the White House and Senator Schumer on this. Now, if Schumer did this on his own, okay, fine. But would it really surprise anybody to find out that the White House, if they didn't encourage Schumer to do this, they're very happy that he did? Because honestly, it meets their ends. The Biden White House wants Netanyahu out. And the reason for that is pretty basic, at least in my mind anyway. And Blue Sky brings up a very valid point. The Democrats have a fissure in their party, and Schumer is trying to cover it. It's not surprising to me or anybody else what's going on here. They want Netanyahu gone. They want this war off the front page so that the Palestinian Americans who support the Democratic Party are going to like settle down and cool it and vote for old Uncle Joe come November. I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. First of all, even if this conflict between Israel and Hamas ends by let's say just say late spring or early summer, I'm sorry, the damage is done. It's absolutely done. They ain't no putting this back together. Because to me, this is one more example of you created Frankenstein's monster, and now the monster is running amok, and you get to deal with the consequences. What am I getting at? The Democratic Party, not necessarily in toto, but large parts of it, have been stoking a very virulent anti-Israel sentiment for a long time. Now, you can argue whether that's good, whether that's bad, fine. I got no problem with that. But they've been pushing this. And now, when the Democratic Party official backs Israel in a conflict where they were attacked first, albeit dubious circumstances behind that, but that's a whole other subject. Israel is attacked first. The Democrat Party official says, hey, we're backing Israel. Now you've got this wing of the Democratic Party that is just up in arms over the whole thing. And now Biden's got an enormous problem going into November, and it's showing up in places like Michigan, Minnesota, Colorado, and others, because there is a uncommitted vote out there. Now, will all of that uncommitted vote that's been voting so far in the primaries sit on their hands or vote for somebody else? No, some of it's going to come home to Biden. They will swallow hard, and they'll do it. They'll vote for President Soft Serve come November. But right now, it's a big problem. It's a huge problem. Look at New York City. What is going on there is absolutely awful for so many different reasons. So yeah, this speech, it's not helping. And by the way, lest you think that that's just my reaction, check this out. This is from Axios. Article written by Barak Ravid. Schumer's anti-Netanyahu speech stuns Israel. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's speech calling for a new government in Israel landed like an earthquake Thursday, delivering a huge shock to an already tense U.S.-Israel relationship. In addition to being the most senior Jewish elected official in the country, Schumer had one of the longest closest relationships with Benjamin Netanyahu of any U.S. politician. Schumer's speech stunned officials and observers in both Washington and Jerusalem because he has been, and still is, the Democratic Party's most avid supporter of Israel in decades. His harsh remarks about Netanyahu created more political space for other Democrat members in Congress to publicly voice their criticism of the Israeli government amid the ongoing war in Gaza. To understand how significant the comments were, one must return to March 2015, when Schumer was one of only Senate of Democrats who didn't criticize Netanyahu's famous speech to Congress, railing against the Iran nuclear deal. U.S. officials and Senate Democrats say Schumer's comments reflect the change in public sentiment toward Netanyahu's government, especially inside the Democratic Party and the mostly liberal Jewish American community. Behind the scenes, Schumer told senior White House officials on Wednesday he was going to give a speech about Israel, but he didn't give them a copy of it or ask for their permission. The White House didn't encourage Schumer, but they didn't stop him. You see my point? You see my point here? They may not have written this speech for Schumer, but daggone if they're not enjoying the benefit of it politically. Just saying. A couple of more things from this article. The White House has sought to tamp down its public spat with Netanyahu in recent days after concluding that the escalating tensions only served the Israeli prime minister's domestic political interest, U.S. officials said. This is the second time this week that a U.S. official publicly commented on Netanyahu's political weaknesses. On Tuesday, the Director of National Intelligence Annual Threat Assessment determined that Netanyahu's viability as prime minister may be in jeopardy due to Israel discontent. Well, it may be in jeopardy, but that's not because the White House isn't happy about the fact that it's happening. Okay, so some reactions to this. And let me take you first to U.S. Representative Nancy Mace. She appeared on Bill Maher's show on HBO. So do me a favor and check this out. This is interesting.
What do you think of Senator Schumer's speech criticizing Netanyahu and calling for new elections in Israel? Wow,
completely inappropriate.
You thought it was completely inappropriate?
I thought it was inappropriate. We should not be meddling in the election or affairs of other countries. I know we do sometimes. We should not be doing that.
No, we don't like it when they do it with us. That's true.
Right. And we shouldn't be doing it in other countries. And we have done this, and we've done it unsuccessfully for decades. We've had really...
I mean, he's just offering an opinion.
Yeah,
I mean, we do give them a lot of money. Maybe that gives us the right to maybe, kibitz a little.
Well, they do a lot for us.
I'm just asking.
Israel does a lot for the United States.
But there's the need to separate the Netanyahu policies from the support that we all feel for Israel and the horrors that Hamas actually brought to the people of Israel.
Right.
The Netanyahu policies are deplorable. They are deplorable. They are
That's
excessive.
For Israel. That's for the citizens of Israel to decide. It's not for us to decide.
Your best friends sometimes in really direct ways.
One of the strongest supporters of the U.S.-Israel relationship.
Yes,
for him to say that, you have to know how much Bibi is probably upset about. That takes...
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. You don't go interfering in somebody else's business. You just don't. So, yeah, I'm not buying either Eric Holder or Ro Khanna's remarks on this. There's a time and place to do it, but not like this. From Ari Fleischer. I don't ever again want to hear a Democrat lecture about foreign interference in the American election. Exactly. With his speech today, Senator Schumer forfeited any claim the U.S. can make about foreign nations staying out of our elections. And he's spot on. He's absolutely right. So there you go. All right, what else goes on in the world? Yeah, he'll take the heat off the White House, which, I mean, it's to their benefit. They want Schumer to make this speech. Biden would probably love to give the speech. He can't do it. Now, by can't, I'm not talking about all the normal reasons why we think he can't do it. He can't speak. He can't know where he doesn't know where he is. He'll muddle through the whole thing. What I mean is, politically, he can't give that speech. Because if he gets up and starts doing that, then you're going to have a significant portion of, American Jews who are like, what the hell? Which means money that he might be getting from donors starts drying up in certain quarters. So, yeah, Biden was probably cheering him on. He's like, oh, yeah, go ahead, make that speech. Do me a favor, brother. Absolutely, make that happen. Make that happen. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit. It's 11:30. My name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. This is Front Porch Brunch, our weekly review of items in the news. We're on YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter. So thank you for all the tweets, the gabs, the getters, the Facebook posts. Thank you for spreading the word around about this going little concern of a channel and this show in particular. So tell your friends, get your butts in here. We're going to get into some different topics, and one of them is the TikTok ban bill. I did a video on this one a little earlier this week, and yeah, this one, I'm getting old and I'm getting cynical. The fact that I'm getting old is not surprising. Everybody does. My level of cynicism is getting worse the older I become. Now, here's what I'm getting at. If y'all haven't heard about this, there was a bill that passed the U.S. House on Wednesday, I believe it was, on Wednesday, which called for the parent company of TikTok, which is the parent company is named ByteDance, to sell TikTok to a U.S. interest in the next 6 months. And if it doesn't, the U.S. government can shut down the use of TikTok in the United States. And the primary arguments being made about this are on the grounds of national security. China is going to infiltrate our young people and influence them badly and put forth propaganda, etc., and so on. So in the name of national security, we've got to do this. Got a question for you guys. And again, call me extremely cynical if you wish. Okay? Does any of that sound vaguely familiar, like the stuff we heard back in 2001 after 9/11? Hey, this Patriot Act, man, we got to start putting stronger surveillance in place, and it's in the name of national security. If we don't keep an eye on these terrorists, then by golly, we're going to have even more of it here. And Americans just gave away their freedom and liberty like they were passing out monopoly money. There's been a lot of stuff that's been done really in the past 50, 60, 70 years, all in the name of national security. And did we get more secure? Well, it depends on whose security you're talking about. You talking about the security of the U.S. government, or you talking about the security of the American people? The government's more secure. Yeah, buddy. The deep state is dug in like a tick on an Alabama hound dog, if I may borrow a line from Predator. Are the American people any more secure? I'm not buying it. If we are, I'll be damned if you can prove it to me. But for those of you who didn't see it, here's the New York Times article about it. House passes bill to force TikTok sale from Chinese owner or ban the app. And the article is written by Sapna Maheshwari, Dave McCabe, and Annie Carney. House on Wednesday passed a bill with broad bipartisan support that would force TikTok's Chinese owners to either sell the highly popular video app or have it banned in the United States. The move escalates a showdown between Beijing and Washington over the control of a wide range of technologies that could affect national security, the free speech, and social media industry. The result was a bipartisan coalition behind the measure that included Republicans who defied former President Donald J. Trump in supporting it, and Democrats who also fell in behind a bill that President Biden said he would sign. The bill faces a difficult road to passage in the Senate, where Chuck Schumer, a Democrat of New York and the majority leader, has announced he's non-committal about bringing it to the floor for a vote, and where some lawmakers have vowed to fight it. Even if it passes the Senate, becomes law, it likely faces legal challenge. But Wednesday's vote was the first time a measure that could widely ban TikTok for consumers was approved by a full chamber of Congress. The app has been under threat since 2020, with lawmakers increasingly arguing that Beijing's relationship with TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, raises national security risks. The bill is aimed at getting ByteDance to sell TikTok to non-Chinese owners within 6 months. The president would sign off on the sale if it resolved national security concerns. If that sale did not happen, the app would be banned. Well, that's the argument they're selling. But there are some considerations. So the White House press secretary, Jean-Pierre, which I'll call her because I cannot pronounce her last name, said the following from the podium. Check this out. This runs about 20 seconds.
Services put Americans' data at risk. You heard the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, speak to this on Tuesday. It is important for us to have an understanding, right, where this American data is going. Do they live here or do they live in China, for example? He said that, right? Is there ownership here or is it in China, for example?
Okay, well, I might be able to buy that argument if it just weren't for one little thing. Did you know that the Biden White House has a TikTok account? Just saying. I mean, if the Biden White House is so genuinely worried about data going over to communist China and falling into the wrong hands or what have you, then why do they have a TikTok account? Which, by the way, they banned all government employees from using TikTok. And this was 6-7 months ago, I believe it was. So why do they have one? Just saying. A few other comments as it relates to this. And here's the part I think that really scares people, and truly does, okay? This is from Spike Cohen. The TikTok ban bill will be used to force Elon to sell Twitter to a big tech company so that you can be more thoroughly controlled. They're so blatant about it, it's not even in dispute. And this is part of the bill. Controlled by a foreign adversary. The term controlled by a foreign adversary means, with respect to a covered company or other entity, that such company or other entity is a foreign person that is domiciled in, is headquartered in, has its principal place of business in, or is organized under the laws of a foreign adversary country. B, controlled by a foreign adversary can mean an entity with respect to which a foreign person or combination of persons described in subparagraph A, directly or indirectly, owns at least a 20% stake. Or C, controlled by a foreign adversary could mean a person subject to the direction or control of a foreign person or entity as described in subparagraphs A and B. So, yeah, there's all kinds of problems with this thing. I don't like it. And I don't like where it's going. This, to me, is kind of frightening, to be perfectly honest. But then again, the U.S. government's made these kind of arguments before. And good morning, sir. Thank you for your very kind words to me on Twitter and on YouTube. I genuinely appreciate it. Now this is interesting. Steve Mnuchin, and I heard about this. I don't have a story pulled up to show you all what I'm talking about, but Gypsy brings up a very good point. Steve Mnuchin, the former Treasury Secretary for Donald Trump, is trying to put together a consortium of investors to buy TikTok. Now, could it be that he's trying to do with TikTok what Elon Musk did for Twitter, or his stated goal he's trying to do for Twitter, and that is make it a free speech platform, maybe take some of the worries away about infiltration by the Chinese Communist government? Okay, maybe. Don't know, but I do think it's interesting that Mnuchin's trying to get into this thing. Yeah, your money is secure and it's gone. Like I said, a lot of things have been done in the name of national security over the years. True dat. Rand Paul has been one of the principal people speaking out against this TikTok ban bill. He gave a speech on the Senate floor the other day. I want you guys to listen to this. This runs about 30 seconds. So check this out.
Many people on the right, in fact, some on the left, they are horrified by big tech in our country. They're consistent in being horrified by the abuses of big tech here and also TikTok. But look at their legislative proposals. Many of them would actually ban big tech here as well, or put it under the thumb of government, or set up government agencies or panels to determine what speech would be acceptable. And if you're not putting enough conservatives on there, by golly, we're going to have a government commission that's going to determine what kind of content gets on there. These are scary ideas. Many people on the right.
And he is absolutely right, ladies and gentlemen. I can't stress this enough. Yeah, national security, like our borders. They're worried about banning TikTok and not worried about securing our borders. True point. Let free speech be free speech, folks. Look, I said this the other day talking about it. To me, TikTok, an app, Twitter, Gab, Truth Social, these are nothing more than tools. They could be used for good, they could be used for bad, but in and of themselves, they don't do any more than what they are manipulated to do by human beings. Okay? And frankly, this whole argument about, the Chinese Communist government, using algorithms to influence the American people, to me is a stronger argument for trying to make our population a more educated and more thoughtful society than it is, talking about how bad TikTok is. It's like I said, or think of it like this. The automobile. We use it to travel to and from work, to and from our homes, to travel to visit family, etc. There have also been automobiles that have been involved in the death of other individuals. Now, do we ever charge the car or do we charge the person behind the wheel? No, we charge the person behind the wheel. Why? Because the law recognizes that individuals are the ones that commit crimes that could potentially be punished, not the vehicle they happen to be driving in. Let's take it one step further. Guns. A gun doesn't kill anyone. A person kills another person. The gun just happens to be the instrument that's used to commit the murder. So now bring it back around to social media apps. Social media apps are no more evil or no more good than a gun or an automobile. It all depends on what you do with them. So why are we trying to ban speech by saying, okay, either TikTok has got to be in the hands of an American company or we got to shut down. And frankly, the way this bill is written, we're opening the door to give more power to the federal government, more particularly the executive branch, and thereby endanger the freedoms of the American people, such as we still have them, such as that they're still left. I just don't like where this is going. I really don't. One last clip, and I played this the other day in my video, but because he sums this up so well, I've got to play this again. Vivek Ramaswamy, who, by the way, Christian, I may be an old horse that got to the trough too late, but I'm drinking the water. Just saying. I've always thought that Vivek was a very smart guy, but and this is a good point too that Robert brings up. What stops the U.S. government from using Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, or any other social media platform to influence perception and behavior? Like, say, I don't know, in October 2020 when Twitter didn't want anybody knowing about the Hunter Biden story. Anyway, Vivek Ramaswamy. I want to play this for you. This runs a couple of minutes, but it's worth every bit of it. So do me a favor, check this out.
Something I did want to touch on here briefly with both of you is the TikTok ban. That just passed the House. Your thoughts on it? Starting with Vivek.
Yeah. So look, my thought is TikTok has major issues. There's at least three categories of major issues. Number one is persuasion threats to the United States of America, the Chinese government or Chinese affiliated entities determining what U.S. users do or don't see. Number two is forced data transfers to the Chinese Communist Party from a U.S. tech company. And number three is addictive tendencies in kids under the age of 15. Major problems. However, I think this bill fails across the board to address those issues. It's incomplete in addressing those issues while also creating a civil libertarian nightmare giving to the Biden administration exclusive executive authority effectively to decide which kinds of so-called foreign adversary controlled apps or even websites are going to be shut down or not, or are going to be owned by whom. And so if you're concerned with the Biden administration engaging in backdoor censorship using tech companies to do it, I think it's a bad idea to give that Biden administration even broader executive latitude to do the same thing. If you want to address the issue, as I do favor doing, address the issue across the board. Social media in kids under the age of 16, it's an issue. Address it. Force data transfers to the CCP. I don't like it if Google's doing it. I don't like it if Airbnb is doing it. I don't like it if TikTok is doing it. Deal with it across the board rather than in a company-specific manner. And the specific manner in which this bill is written does two things. One is it's designed to exclude the very companies that have been lobbying for it. This is a Facebook lobbying bill. That's a dirty little secret in Washington, D.C. It's designed to exclude U.S. companies from being burdened. I'd say include all companies, U.S. or not, from stopping data transfers to the CCP. Look at Airbnb and what they've been doing for years. Wall Street Journal reporting a few years ago, put an end to it across the board, TikTok to Airbnb to anybody else. And the other thing is, don't give this much unfettered executive authority to a president, including currently, that would be President Biden, to even broaden the scope of using tech companies, be they Google, be they TikTok, be they Facebook, be they YouTube, to do through the back door what the government couldn't do through the front door. So that's my view, is a wrong bill to at least accomplish a worthy goal, accomplish it in the right way, ban the behavior rather than playing whack-a-mole one company at a time.
That's brilliant. He said in 2 minutes what it's taken me forever to get around to, but he's right. He focuses on the question of the Biden administration. I'm sorry, I'm not giving Democrats or Republicans this kind of power. You know, one of my favorite authors is the legendary P.J. O'Rourke. Recently passed away, and P.J. said something years ago that is still true to this day. Giving money and power to government is like giving whiskey and car keys to teenage boys. You don't have to finish the sentence. Just think about what happens. So no, I hope this TikTok ban bill dies a worthy death in the Senate. I mean, look, very rarely will I ever cheer for Chuck Schumer, but if Chuck Schumer decides not to bring this one up, hat tip to the man. I will tip my fedora in his direction, because it's one of the smartest things he could ever do. He might be doing it for different reasons than what I would want him to do it for, but I'll agree with the outcome. Yeah, PJ O'Rourke was awesome. Absolutely awesome. All right, where are we here? It's about 10 minutes till 12 on Saturday. My name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. We're on YouTube. We're on Rumble. We are on Twitter with Front Porch Brunch, our review of items in the news from the week. And yeah, we'll go. Do I want to do it or not? Do I want to go? You know what? Let's just go straight to Front Porch. Let's just go straight to HodgePodge Stew. Now, for those of you who are visiting for the first time, and maybe you're not familiar with HodgePodge Stew is that section of this live stream where we talk about some stories that are kind of important. They're out there in the ether, but they haven't been top of mind for everybody, or to borrow from an old newspaper term, they didn't get above the fold. So these are things that are kind of fun, funny, sad, a little bit of both, could be anything. And they make up what I call HodgePodge Stew. And we'll start with some funnies. Did you know, by the way, that Chuck Norris, the legendary American actor and martial artist, celebrated his 84th birthday last weekend? So I take you to Twitter, and this is a video of him working out on a punching bag, and I love this line. The punching bag was later transported to the emergency room. There is a whole list of great jokes, and these came out, I don't know, about 4 or 5 years ago, I guess. They were Chuck Norris related jokes. And I mean, in other words, take the craziest thing in the world that couldn't be done by anybody else, plug in the name Chuck Norris, and Chuck Norris not only did it, he made the situation just totally irrelevant by the fact that he was the one involved with it. So I'll put this back up here. Chuck Norris is celebrating his 84th birthday, working out on a punching bag, and the punching bag was later transported to the emergency room. So I'll play this for you real quick. 84-year-old guy.
You know, I'm 84 today, but I feel like I'm 48. God bless you all.
All right, so there you go. Now, there are a couple other little jokes that I found that I thought were pretty funny, and these relate to Joe Biden. And we're getting to something with these jokes. They're not just purely for the purpose of being funny. Somebody I follow on Twitter posted this. I've never been fondled by Donald Trump, but I have been screwed by Joe Biden. There you go. One other little funny as it relates to Biden. This one's great. So apparently, the president recently went to the dentist office and he registered a complaint. And the complaint goes like this. My tooth hurts when I suck. The dental assistant says, so you're in constant pain? Hey, I'm here all week, folks. Don't forget to tip the waiters and the waitresses and try the veal. Now, I bring all that up to get to the first story as it relates to HodgePodge stew. And I want to take you back in time a little bit to the State of the Union address, or maybe it's better to call it the State of the Union screech. This was the speech that Joe Biden gave 2 days after Super Tuesday, where he was well on his way to locking up the nomination to be renominated to run for president of the United States on the Democratic Party's ticket. And the speech was any number of different things. It was fiery, it was out there, it was et cetera and so on. And everybody on the Democrat side anticipated that Joe Biden would get a big old bump in the polls. Well, I have bad news for you, Joe. You got butkus. This is from the New York Intelligencer. Take a look at this. Trump versus Biden polls. No State of the Union bounce for Joe. Article by Ed Kilgore. It is hard to exaggerate the psychological boost Democrats derive from Joe Biden's 2024 State of the Union address. Now, that's absolutely true. I mean, these people were practically giddy with themselves. I thought we were going to, let them go off somewhere and have a private moment. That's how up for this thing they were. But anyway, let's continue. Fears that Biden would show his advanced age on the re-election campaign trail, or worse yet, hide from voters, were dissipated by his fiery, upbeat demeanor and extemporaneous feistiness. His team strategy for winning in November was on full display as the president chipped away at public skepticism about his record and identified Republicans with deeply unpopular policy positions and their deeply unpopular nominee. Well, I disagree with that deeply unpopular nominee, but we continue. After the satisfying main course of Biden's address, dessert was served to Democrats via Katie Britt's weird and mendacious Republican response, which was unintentional comedy gold. But while the State of the Union did wonders for Democratic optimism, there's simply not much evidence that it changed the minds of many about Joe Biden's job performance or flipped many votes from Republican to Democrat. The president's job approval ratings remain subpar. In the Real Clear Politics polling average, Biden had a 39.2% approval rating on March 7th and 39.8% 8 days later. In 538's polling averages, Biden's approval actually dropped slightly from 38.1 on March 7th to 38.4 now. Doesn't seem like a drop. It seems like an increase. One pollster who measured presidential approval just a few days before after the speech showed no change, etc. Even if Biden didn't lift assessments of his job performance in this one speech, he did at least damage perceptions of Trump. That's the question. There's not much publicly available evidence of that either. Yes, a post-State of the Union poll by ABC Ipsos gave Trump a terrible 29% to 59% unfavorable ratio, but it also gave Biden a nearly as terrible 33% to 54% approval-disapproval ratio. Other post-State of the Union polls provided better favorability ratios for both candidates, but they're largely identical. Yeah, so needless to say, folks, he got nothing. And I'm not surprised. I don't have it pulled up, and I really wish I did. Selena Zito, one of my favorite writers, wrote a very good column maybe a couple of days ago last week. It's definitely in the past week. And she makes a very valid point. The political class in Washington, D.C. and New York City viewed Biden's State of the Union address as the best thing they ever could have watched. And brought a very, and Selena Zito brought up a very valid point. There's a difference between the way the Washington political class viewed that speech and the way most Americans did. Most Americans viewed that speech as just angry and hateful. And if you don't believe me, go read Selena Zito's column on this, because she's absolutely right. He wasn't addressing anything they really cared about, or if he did, he waited so far into the speech to do it that it was lost. Inflation is eating the American people alive. Everybody's feeling it. I'm feeling it. You're feeling it, etc. When did he address it? Probably not until halfway through the speech. What's the very first thing he did address? Funding for Ukraine. Laken Riley was murdered at the hands of an illegal immigrant. He couldn't even say her name correctly and would never have even brought it up had it not been for Marjorie Taylor Greene. What's the biggest issue on the minds of voters in poll after poll after poll? The border and immigration. The economy runs a close second. Biden never would even have touched the subject in that speech if he didn't have to. So yeah, there is an enormous disconnect between the political class's perception and the perception of the American people. Now, what that's going to mean come November, no idea. All right, let's move on to some other things in HodgePodge Stew. Did you guys hear about the gentleman in New York City during rush hour who was shot on the subway? I haven't seen the whole story yet. I've seen the video clip from inside the car, and I want to play a little bit of this for you because, frankly, this is sad. Now, there's nothing violent in this. I mean, what you're going to see are people in one car on the subway, huddled down, scared to death, but it's a very jarring image. At least I think so anyway. But I want to play it to bring up some points. So if this sort of thing bothers you, take about 30 seconds and turn off the screen or turn down the volume, okay? I just want to be fair about that up front. So anyway, here we go.
Where's the NYPD? Oh my God.
Did you hear what she just said? Where is the NYPD? We'll let this go for a few more seconds.
Close the door! Close the door!
Federer made.
I'm not going to fault the people in this video for anything they were feeling other than the understandable scare that they had in that moment. I don't fault them for that. I'm not going to sit here and make fun of them in that moment because, but by the grace of God, it could have been us. It really could have been. I do have a question. And I would only ask this of the young lady whose voice you heard only after an appropriate amount of time has gone by and the situation was under control and she had the chance to be calm and rational. The question that I want to ask of her is this. So when the police department in New York City was being cut by millions or billions of dollars, did you support that? Now, I can just hear what some people are going to say. Oh, that's cruel. That's a horrible... No, wait a minute. That's a fair question. And like I said, I wouldn't be so crass, obviously, to ask a question like that 10 seconds after that poor girl yells out, "Where's the NYPD?" However, I think it is a completely fair question. How many people on that subway car, in one form or another, in the past 5 or 10 years in New York City, were calling for reductions in the police force? Now, maybe none of them. Maybe I'm dead wrong about this. And if I am, I apologize. And no, I don't want to see it happen to anybody. But if New York is less safe today, and unfortunately some of those people are feeling it, did you get what you asked for? I mean, I'm sorry. I hate to ask that question, but, is it now finally coming around that New Yorkers are understanding the things they've supported, how badly it's hurting them? And again, it may very well be that the people on this subway car, not to a man or woman, not a one of them supported the idea of reducing monies for the police department. And if that's the case, cool. And even if it weren't the case, I don't want to see anybody go through this. But chickens do come home to roost. And I haven't heard Curtis's comments on this, but I'd love to. If somebody finds it, send it to me. Tweet it at me or something. Because I'd love to hear what Curtis Sliwa has to say about this. I'd be genuinely interested. Really interested. Which that gives me an idea, actually. Thanks, Connecticut. Is that true? They're not even armed? Oh my God. Are you serious? Jeez. That's awful. Yeah, because I know the gypsy had asked the question, where was the guard? But if this is the case, then what's the point of even putting them down there? I mean, look, I don't want to ever see any situation ratcheted up or the tension on it made so bad that, someone's got the capability with what they're armed with to potentially make it worse than what it already is. But if you're putting National Guard down there, the people of New York City are, I guess, working from the assumption, as anybody would, by the way, that you're doing so, such that it's going to enhance the safety of citizens in New York City who are using the subway system. But if you're not even arming the National Guard, then what the hell's the point of putting them down there? Yeah, that's true too. Sadly, you might be right, Robert. You really do. You might be onto something, dude. Very, very sad indeed. When I saw that clip, it broke my heart. Just absolutely broke my heart. Gypsy throw this in the stew as Candace Owens reveal about Bridget Macron, a setup for Michelle. Gypsy, do me a favor, darling. I haven't heard about this, but I wouldn't mind talking about it. Drop me something in chat, or drop me something over on Twitter. I'd be very interested to know what this is about, but I just wanted to acknowledge that's there. Yeah, that's a good question, Robert. Why wasn't this guy on the subway frisked? That's a real good question. Real good question. All right, let's get to some other stuff. Let's get to some other stuff in HodgePodge Stew. Did you guys hear what's going on with Tyson Foods? Jesse Waters on his show the other day had something. This is a 2-minute clip, and I'm going to run this. I want your guys' reaction to it. A lot is made about why illegal immigration ought to be brought under control, and one of the principal arguments is a question around economics. Check this out and tell me what you guys think. Again, this runs about 2 minutes. I'm going to do my best not to interrupt this, but tell me what you guys think, and then we'll talk about it.
Iowa is about to change drastically, and not for the better. This week, Tyson Foods announced that it will be permanently closing its pork factory in Perry, killing around 1,200 jobs in a town of just 8,000 people. So as Perry residents struggle to cope with mass layoffs, Tyson Foods has its eyes on a different class of workers. The company is now offering new jobs to asylum seekers in other states like New York. Bloomberg says Tyson's tracking migrants in a massive database. They scroll through the data like Facebook. You see a worker you like, tap, hire. They even had a job fair.
So you were at a Tyson fair in New York City not so long ago where Tyson was basically making this pitch. What did you observe when you went there?
They created a database for these new asylum seekers in New York City. So these people would come in, they'd learn a little bit about the company, and for the most part, Tyson had already gone through their various details of their application. And so many of them, 17 the day I was there, and then another 70 a couple weeks later, went off to Tennessee to go start their new jobs as Tyson production workers.
Oh, and the jobs come with perks, not just health insurance. Tyson's also offering lawyers to its illegal alien workers and time off to attend immigration hearings. In 2034, of course, they're firing Americans and offering perks to illegals. This was the Democrat plan all along.
Well, first of all, let's just say we are a nation of immigrants. 460,000 open jobs today. Wow. I have 5,000 farm jobs that I need filled so we can plant the crops.
Vegetables would rot in the ground if they weren't being picked by many immigrants, many illegal immigrants.
You see, even in Florida, some of the farmers and the growers saying, why are you shipping these?
Iowa.
Okay. 1,200 people in Perry, Iowa are going to lose their jobs because Tyson is shutting down the plant in a town of 8,000 people. That's roughly 15% of the population of that town, assuming that all 1,200 workers are from the town of Perry, Iowa, and maybe not the surrounding area, but you get the general idea. Okay. What's Tyson going to do? They're going to shut down a plant that is employing, I'm going to assume, American citizens. They're going to start combing through the number of illegal immigrants in New York City, reach out to them, offer them jobs with benefits, including, apparently, lawyers to help the immigrants make sure that they navigate their immigration hearings correctly, show up on time, file the right papers, that sort of thing. Ladies and gentlemen, if you needed any reason whatsoever to make sure that we put in people, not just the American president, by the way, this is a matter of congressional problem too. But if you ever needed a reason to start voting people in, they're going to protect our sovereign border in the South and the North for that matter, and start working to protect the interests of the American people, that little 2-minute story ought to do more to help you get there than anything else I could ever say to you. My ex switched landscapers to one that charged half of what he was paying. Guess why? There you go. There you go. It's just stuff like that that absolutely makes you crazy. And by the way, speaking of illegal immigration, here's another story for HodgePodge too. Pentagon officials anticipate mass migration of Haitians amid the chaos in the Caribbean. Now, if y'all haven't heard about this story, this is one that scares me to death. Haiti is absolutely falling apart. Their government, the leader of their government has basically abdicated, and it's mass chaos down there. Okay? It's awful. And now the Pentagon is anticipating a mass migration of Haitians coming up through the Caribbean to get into the U.S. And now we've also got boots on the ground in Haiti trying to help bring about order. Our troops. This is yeah, Robert, brother, I fear you are right in this. Absolutely. Absolutely. Just absolutely scary where we are in terms of some of what's going on. Oh, goodness. Rather frightening indeed. Anyway, it's about 12:15 on a Saturday afternoon, and that is pretty much everything I've got for Front Porch Brunch. And I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me for a little while. You guys are always, you guys are genuinely awesome. And I know I say that a lot, but you are. You guys are the best audiences in the whole of the internet for so many different reasons. We're going to be back next week. We're going to have live streams. We're going to have interviews. And like I said, just remember, by way of a couple of little commercials, tomorrow morning, probably around 10:45 a.m., I'll be doing a live stream coverage of Donald Trump's interview with Howard Kurtz of Fox News. Might have some co-hosts with me, might not. But if not, we'll probably be starting around 10:45 in the morning. So please be advised of that. We'll be on YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter. And also be aware that we will have Chrissy Mayer this coming Wednesday, the 20th of March, 5:30 p.m. Bless her heart, she's finally fully recovered from everything and on her way back to being the best and coolest Chrissy Mayer that she can ever possibly be. Not that even she's not cool during those moments when she's sick, but Chrissy's just an awesome person. And so, yeah, that'll be coming up. Look for new videos, new live streams. And again, spread the word about the channel. I'm about 115 subscribers away from 1,000, and you guys have been awesome as far as like spreading the word, saying very nice things about my channel, my work, and I can't thank you enough. I really can't. You guys are absolutely amazing. So you guys have a great weekend. And if you're able to join me tomorrow morning, cool. And if not, I understand completely. But you guys have a fantastic weekend. And if not tomorrow, we'll see you next week. And remember the words of that great American philosopher, Tom T. Hall, when he said, "It's faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, and more money." God bless you guys. We'll catch you later.